I've been coaching for over 20 plus years now, which sounds crazy, but it is true. I started freshman year of college and it's been a roller coaster. It's been my life. It's been my mission since. And as I've been sort of stepping back from the training space, I had 5 gyms, I had 4 melts, and then in 30 Fit in Florida, in COVID, I sold my last gym right after COVID, I should say. It was a really tough time. I felt it was time for me to kind of just move on from that space in that time. After that, I was coaching people remotely and that was fun. It was cool, but it missed something for me. I long for that interaction with people. I love me a sweaty hug or a hand hug. Some people are like, hey, I ain't hugging, which is cool. I get it. Hand hugs. I'll take a sweaty hand hug all day, baby. The connection part I missed. Through a whim, I fell into finding out about technologies that we have here at Define, medical grade red light therapy. When I heard about you can spot reduce through red light, I was like, no, you can't. You can't spot reduce through exercise and diet, right? Because that is what we know in the fitness industry. And that is true, by the way. You cannot spot reduce through exercise and diet. However, upon getting it done myself and then reading a lot of research, and there's over 50,000 clinical studies, it's like, whoa, if you get the medical grade and if it's FDA cleared, it actually does do the thing. So that led me down into Define, and at Define, then we got into the Metabolic Boost Pod. I got licensed as a hypnotist, and that's been amazing. Through doing the wellness services at our wellness center, it brought back the element of the human connection, just seeing people and working with people. Because I can tell you something, that there's nothing better in this world for me outside of my family, especially kids, but there's nothing better to see someone who is scared, insecure, broken, you name it, then see them transform between your eyes. Forget about the physical, yeah, that's awesome, but the internal part, the confidence, just seeing the way they dress. I always say at the gym, one of my favorite parts of owning a gym was I would notice when people would come in, they might look fit, they might be fit, or they might be someone who's just getting started on their journey, but you would see them come in with dark clothes and really kept to themselves. Then all of a sudden they start building their swagger up. They start progressing through the exercises. They're building commitment. They start feeling better about themselves. They're popping in with the most fluorescent flower pants you've ever seen. I used to just love watching that. You witness transformation. There's nothing better from that. I've gotten to do a lot of that with Define because our technologies work extremely well and we've been able to see that happen. But I've been doing thousands of consults over the last 4+ years, and I'm talking to people on all things that are going on in their life, mentally, emotionally, physically. And it was just abundantly clear to me is that there is just such a disconnect on so many different levels. People would tell me that stuff they're doing with their trainer or stuff their PT had them do or didn't have them to, or stuff their ortho told. And all of these things, I kept hearing more and more and more and more things that I was able to sort of help guide people through, even though I wasn't necessarily doing physical coaching with. And it just lit something in me, And then through the years, having reconnected with so many melters at events, some worse than others, unfortunately, but just through the local scene and reminiscing about the days, it wasn't about how hard the workout was. It was about the connection that was made with the people that we fostered together. And that there's something special when you're sweating together. There's just a level of trust that goes in when somebody gives you the privilege to trust you with their health and invest in you financially. That is an amazing thing to have that, especially going back with my story, growing up bullied and called stupid and retarded and thinking those things, because that's what I was called so often, and having that reinforced by the traditional school system. That little child that was hurt still lives within me. While I've never been overweight, I know what it feels like to feel isolated and to feel afraid and to not feel good in your own body and to not want to talk because you're afraid of what people might say, all these things. And so that experience, getting to then come on the other side of that and help people through it on their own journey, there's just nothing better. And again, through doing all these consults, I just realized there's just such a void. The circus workouts that are going on at these gyms and on Instagram is just crazy. And so often stress is never thought about. We think about workout as a stress release. Workout's not a stress release. Workout's a tension release, right? Workouts induce stress. If the body is experiencing stress, it's going to hold on to fat. It's going to elevate your nervous system. If your nervous system is elevated, you're not going to recover, right? And if you're not going to recover, again, we're holding on to fat, but also it's going to affect your energy, fatigue, your sleep. So all of these things, and then you juxtapose that, particularly to women who are going through menopause. I don't need to tell any woman out there, it doesn't get harder than that. And there are so many women who are suffering and struggling because the abundance of information out there, a lot of which is BS and overwhelming. Look, I'm confident in my ability, not from a place of ego, but from a place of results and experience. Because over the course of the 2 decades, between the fitness, between yoga certification, between hypnosis, between wellness, between lymphatic drainage, menopause, I can go down the list. You start developing patterns of what works. Thinking about all the work I've done hundreds of hypnosis sessions over the last several years. It's an amazing way to accelerate the ability to transform and quite literally literally rewire the way a subconscious thinks. And working with people who have had such traumatic childhoods, and whether they're micro or macro traumas, we all have had something in us, but if it's unresolved, it will affect us as an adult. And so you take all of these things. I've seen so many holes, and I just want to get my hands back in there and help, There's really no better way to say it. And so long-winded way to say is starting next month, I'm going to personally be leading our small group personal training here at Define. We already have the space clear. I'm going to be personally leading it. And I am so excited because if there's nothing in this world, I know human potential. My superpower is to be able to connect to somebody and get them to do things they never thought they could do. That is something they've always wanted to do, to get them to basically evolve from where they were internally to where they want to be internally. Because guess what? If it doesn't happen internally, it doesn't matter what happens externally. You're going to continue to yo-yo. So many self-sabotage patterns are not because you're fat, because you're lazy, because you're stupid, because you don't know what to do. No, not at all. It's internal self-sabotage that is really just trying to protect some level of insecurity and likely some default setting you learned way back when you had never had a choice in the matter. But as an adult, it's manifested as a way of being. But that doesn't mean that's how you are. So with this new small group training, yes, obviously physical training, which is going to be very big on pain reduction and recovery. There's going to be a recovery part of the program. The workouts are going to be, of course, always safe, always low impact, strength focused, but less is more. A lot of people disagree with me, but I will argue this to the death because I see what I see when it comes to recovery. You really don't need to be working out more than 3 days a week. Now, I'm not to say slow state cardio walks isn't good to do and other things like that, but like in terms of intense workouts, again, if your body's not recovering and you have a lot of life stress, mental, emotional stress, well, guess what? You're not getting what you deserve out of it. And so recovery is going to be a big part of it. Mindset is going to be a big part of it. So every one of my clients, we're going to be doing a quarterly, starting when you start, mind map session. A mind map session is what I do now with my hypnosis clients, which is basically to extract some of the internal belief systems that are going on, fears, doubts, worries, concerns, helping them understand what's going on objectively. Because when you can have clarity, you're able to create space. You start to become more conscious in how you think and what you do. The key is to understand is how can we create a holistic long-term strategy for you? And so every session, literally you come in, we're going to have a conversation, as we're cooling down and stretching, we're going to find out what's going on. We're going to make sure we're all on board, that we're talking shop about things that matter in a practical world so that we can move the needle for you. I got to say too, like outside of what we've talked about, like I've really missed more than anything when it comes to coaching is celebrating people's wins, but more so just watching people celebrate their wins. And that has to be a part of it. And I am not talking weight loss, right? Weight loss is probably the worst metric you can measure. A lot of people say, well, my doctor said I should be this weight. Well, your doctor's using weight because that's the only method they can easily use for the entire population. But weight doesn't determine health. You might say, well, no, I'm overweight. No. Body fat, muscle percent. You know how many people I work with who have lost all of this weight, but their muscle percent is 20%? When I say work with, like at the wellness center, if your muscle percent is 20%, guess what? You are at fall risk. And that's a serious thing. That's a real serious thing. And forget about function and forget about endurance and forget about energy. All these things go back together. That's why it's really hard for just to transform your body or transform your life, but only address one facet. There's just so many things that you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out. I certainly am not, but I have. And so like, these are things that we have to make sure that we're having these conversations about. And I feel like working with people, the physical part, like that's a part that I'm just missing. I'm missing it and I'm bringing it back. And so I'm starting with 3 days a week, 4 sessions a day, 2 in the morning, 2 at night. I am only working with people who are serious though. It's not like a sales thing. It's legit. Like I'm not babysitting. If you know me as a coach, that's not how I am anyway. But like, if you're someone who's not going to show up, then that's just not going to be a good fit. I'm not asking you to come confident. I'm not asking you to come ready 100%. Let's go. No, you don't need that. All I just ask is you to show up. That's it. I want to work with people who want change, who just don't want another workout. I do want to make sure we're going to be a good fit. And I am only starting with 12 people. We're going to launch on a bigger scale in September, but starting off next month, August, I will be taking 12 people. The program that I'm going to be offering in person is also going to be accessible through an app, still communication, Zooms, all the things. Still, I'm going to be taking on clients all over as well within the limits of what I have available, but it's not just going to be in person. I'm really excited. And if you are someone who is ready for a physical and mental and emotional change, hit the link below or go to definewellnesscenter.com/PT and fill out the application, sign up for a free workout. By the way, offering a free workout, I hate dangling that out there because if you're someone who just wants something for free, please don't waste your time or mine. This is my livelihood. This is what I'm serious about. I want to help people who want to be helped. But if you are someone who's like, look, let me see what this guy's all about, or let me go go see what this workout's all about and you are serious, please put your information in, because I'd love to show you all that what I'm talking about. This isn't facade. This isn't BS. This is legit. And anybody who's ever worked with me knows that. This will be the grandest evolution of what I've done and really a culmination of my life's work of 20 plus years of experience. I couldn't be more excited. I appreciate you. Much love. See you soon. DefineWellnessCenter.com/PT. Later.